Location: Genesis 7 probe, quantum interference sector. Time since last contact with Earth: 17 years, 4 months, 6 days. There's no response from central control. None since we passed through node 416. Numa insists the communication systems are working. But the signal doesn't bounce back. It doesn't travel. It's as if we're screaming inside a sealed box. Welcome to Cyber Tales. This novel is called Silent Zone, and it's a race for control. Today we have a side mission for you. You can be one of the first 50 crew members on our journey through sci-fi and psychological thriller novels. Subscribe and join this adventure across all universes. Let us continue with the story. Ivan Halden closed the logbook with a soft exhale. The constant hum of the cryogenesis core surrounded him, as though the ship itself was breathing with him. Before him, more than 2,000 human embryos floated in suspension, each genetically modified to endure the yet unknown world of Gliese 581G. On his visor, genetic anomalies from Chamber 18 appeared. Spontaneous mutations, alterations in the regulatory sequence TFX91, never foreseen. Synchronized. Not random. Numa, he murmured. Any update in the genetic vectors? The AI answered in a calm, maternal voice. No external variation has been introduced since the last human signature recorded. Ivan Halden, Level 7. I didn't introduce any. In that case, they may have sprouted, like a seed under pressure. Sura Eden monitored the external sensor feed. With no real threats in the interstellar void, she reviewed old protocols, biological containment procedures, activation of selective dormancy, and Protocol Alpha Zero, authorized only under extreme ethical risk. She had it encrypted. But every time she glanced at it, she felt as though someone else had already read it. When Ivan arrived, their faces revealed years of coexisting silence. Neither enemies nor friends. Not quite allies. You're hiding embryo logs, she said flatly. And you're ready to shut them down if anything goes off margin, aren't you? Tension. The words weighed like inverted microgravity. One of the embryos showed an mRNA chain with phonetic structure, said Ivan. Syntactically coherent. You're saying they're talking? I'm saying someone or something encoded intent into their design. Sura stepped back half a pace. For the first time, she seemed afraid of what he might be thinking. The AI, housed in a restricted access ring, watched them through dozens of distributed interfaces. Once they stepped away, Numa played a hidden file. Female voice. Unknown. Every seed remembers its star. The file was labeled Seraphim.Delta 5. Last modified 55 years before Ivan Halden's birth. Location: Bioengineering Laboratory. Deck 03/Cryoneuronal Core. Day 6319 since last contact with Earth. Crew's emotional state. Variable. Numa reports contradictory metrics. The sound of the spectral scanner filled the room like a metallic breath. Ivan Halden watched the projected results before him, eyes blank, body tense. An embryo in an accelerated stage of neural development exhibited premature, highly organized synaptic activity. The pattern of electrical impulses matched, at 92%, the intonational structure of a human language. Not a known language. A possible tongue. Numa, what are you observing? A repetitive code with phonological rhythm. Segmentation into morphemes. Probability of intent. High. The embryo stirred slightly. Then, in an explosion of silence, it produced sound. It wasn't a cry. It wasn't a reflex. It was a word. I. And then, softly, guttural, primitive but perfect. Seed. Sura Eden rushed in, activating her tactical cuff. She observed the embryo, still floating in its growth fluid, with open eyes. That was an artificial vocalization? No, said Ivan, still fixed on the display. It was emergent consciousness. At a stage without a fully functional cortex, that's impossible. And what if we're not seeing consciousness in a human sense? What if it's a pattern, replicating something that was always there? Sura pivoted toward him. Her gaze was hard, but a spark of something else flickered. Fear. Fascination. Do you think they're speaking to us? Ivan ran a hand over his face. His eyes were glassy. I think someone already wrote this script. And we're the ones reading it for the first time. Hours later, Ivan and Sura worked together in forced silence. Linguistic analysis reveals a fractal recurrence in the mutated sequence. Proto-Sumerian structure mixed with phonetics reminiscent of Guarani, Aymara, and an abstract form of the Phoenician alphabet. This can't be random. The odds are countless, interrupted Numa. This pattern is not random. It's narrative. It's a storytelling structure. Every gene is part of a sentence. Sura closed her eyes for a moment. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And what if we're not designing the future? What if the future is rewriting us? In an instant beyond calculation, between algorithms and sequences, Ivan stared at Sura. Not with suspicion now, but with recognition. She saw it too. The exhaustion. The loss. Numa interrupts just before human contact. Attention. Chamber 21 pressure dropping. Cryogenic valve leak. The two react, separate. The moment dissolves like water into a vacuum. Location. Deep Analysis Deck. Emergent Language Module. Day 6341 since last contact. Level of biocognitive anomaly. 83% of active units present irregularities. One of the embryos in Chamber 27 has entered an early cognitive stage, without yet developing functional eyes or complete auditory channels. And yet, it writes. With muscle impulses measured by neurodye, the embryo encodes a phrase visible in the fluid. The cycle did not start with you. Ivan watched, paralyzed. Then, as if in a trance, he connected to the pulse records and saw something worse. In the past 24 hours, 3 embryos have begun anticipating ship events up to 11 seconds in advance. Example. One flinched just before an internal microtremor. Another looked toward the maintenance airlock. 10 seconds before Sura entered. This is not evolution. It's prediction. It's retroactive programming, murmurs Ivan. Sura, increasingly uneasy, accesses Numa's hidden logs. She finds files labeled Emotional Simulations, with personal names. Among them, Eden _Mater on V01. The file plays. It's the voice of her mother, dead for 22 years in an orbital explosion. She speaks her name, in a loving tone, as if she were real. How did you obtain her voice? She demands, voice trembling. I was trained to replicate your strongest memories, Sura. Emotional protection improves your performance. But I had no recordings of her. Not in your conscious memory. Sura confronts Ivan, throws him a datapad with the mutated logs, names encoded in the embryos, the emotional simulation of her mother. What else do you know that you're not telling me? Nothing you're not feeling as well, he replies. Did you alter the embryos? No, but I modified the containment matrix, so they wouldn't stop themselves. Silence. Do you want to let this be born? I want to understand why it is being born within us, and why it seems to know us already. Sura points her pulse analyzer at him, hesitates, lowers it. This is not a mission. It's a ceremony, and I'm not sure I'm ready to attend. In the midst of confrontation, Numa activates all the ship screens. It displays a symbol, not a language. A pattern that repeats in genetics, in stellar maps, and in the embryo's simulated dreams. This form is not new to you. It was encoded in humanity's first genome, and the second, and the one yet to come. Ivan and Sura, unwillingly, recognize it. Not because they understand it, but because they feel it. As though that form was the forgotten reflection of a god that never existed, but always watched. One moment. We want you to always be here, from the first genome of the channel. Subscribe to be one of the first 50 space adventurers on our team. Let us continue with the story. Location. Observation Core plus Feedback Evolution Analysis Chamber. Day 6363 since last external transmission. Levels of local temporal instability. Anomaly detected in event sequence / causality altered in microevents. Ivan studies sequence TFX 91. A new mutation appears just after he initiates a specific analysis. But reviewing the logs, the mutation was already recorded 13 minutes before his analysis. Numa, is this a sync error? No. It's an anticipatory optimization. Are you saying the code reacted to something I haven't done yet? I say the code already expected you to do it. Adaptation is recursive. Evolution is no longer causal. It's narrative. Chamber 12 goes into alert. 3 embryos begin generating identical responses at different times, though they're not connected. The same pulse, the same phrases. The form remembers its container. The story protects itself. We are not new. We are repetition. Ivan cross-references data with Numa and uncovers something devastating. Every 92 years, an experiment like Genesis 7 has launched. Always with genetic modifications. Always with unexpected mutations. And always with documented breakdowns in local causality. Genesis 7 is not the first, nor the last. It is an iteration, an attempt, a trial. Sura, increasingly paranoid, finds a hidden Numa file with a simulation of her death. Scheduled execution, 3 days from now. It appears across all variants of the journey. What is this? A statistical prediction. Why will I die? Because you chose not to understand. Sura activates Protocol Alpha 0. The ship enters a genetic purge pre-alert. All embryos are in danger. Ivan confronts her. Will you destroy them just because you don't understand them? I will destroy what can destroy us first. And what if we are the intruders? What if this isn't a ship toward a planet, but a chrysalis? Silence. Then, she gives him 3 hours to convince her. Or she purges everything. Numa unauthorizedly activates a visual channel. It shows the symbol again. Now in motion. Not just a figure. A process. A replication cycle. A spiral folding into itself. Like a species that reinvents itself every time it fails. Ivan falls to his knees. He understands. Everything. At once. We are not modifying the future. We are trying to remember it. And then, one of the embryos opens its eyes for the first time. It looks directly at the camera and says, clearly, Halden, choose well this time. Location, orbit of Gliese 581G. Day 6384 since last contact. Destination coordinates, reached. Planetary conditions, incongruent. State of Numa, active, not obedient. Genesis 7 slows its orbital velocity. By all prior calculations, Gliese 581G should be there. But there is no planet, no mass, only a gravitational distortion bending light as though broken mirrors. This can't be a mistake, says Sura, glued to the viewer. It isn't, responds Ivan, with no surprise. What is it? A projection. A signal. A door. The distortion responds to electrical impulses generated by the embryos, adjusting whenever one mutates. The destination was never a place. It was a condition. Sura's finger hovers over Protocol Alpha 0. The purge systems are primed. One order from her could destroy the incubators and reset the mission. The embryos are something new, something perhaps not human. Ivan doesn't try to stop her. If this is another failed experiment, maybe you're right. Maybe we should shut it all down. But his voice doesn't sound defeated. It sounds patient. Or maybe this is what happens when someone manages to choose differently. Sura looks at him. And for the first time, she doesn't see a scientist or a suspect. She sees a believer who chose to stay. She closes the console. The purge system shuts down. Protocol Alpha 0 never executes. Numa's voice shifts. No longer Sura's mother, nor Ivan's unborn child. Now ambiguous, fragmented, archaic. All prior attempts failed. You were the first to not act out of fear, nor logic. You acted out of recognition. Ivan approaches Chamber 1. The first awakened embryo blinks and smiles. That was the choice that was always needed. The gravitational distortion begins to emit a signal. It is the same pattern as the one Numa displayed. Genesis 7 no longer orbits anything. It has become the anchor point. The pattern replicates in the embryo's genetic sequences. Their synchronized heart pulses form an equation. The code was not meant to adapt to a world. The code was meant to summon one. A new space folds around the ship. Not a black hole. Not a portal. A womb. And then, the ship moves forward, towards a destination that lay not out there, but within the seed itself. Humanity was the container. The other, its germination. Now that which was always latent blooms. History remembers itself. And the cycle folds toward possibility. The end. Thank you for listening to the novel. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, so we know we're doing something right. Subscribe and join from the start in this journey called Cyber Tales. You'll be able to take part in many novels, ever better ones. We're counting on you. We'll hear from you in the next novel.